everybody. Have you got a beer? I have. Badger. Poacher's Choice. Now I'm assuming there's no actual badgers in here. What we've got is a 5.7% beer with a rich and fruity plumage, apparently. Though what the fuck are badgers doing with plumage, I have no idea. But nevertheless, to business. And you may have gathered by the speed that I'm throwing it into the glass that I'm gagging for this. There we go. So what does it say? Rich fruity beer has a soft spice sweetness and a fruity damson aroma. Its gutsy character is well matched with hearty game pie, well, not for me, or a tangy mature cheese. Or just another beer. Let's give it a go. Oh. Now it doesn't smell of damsons. But it definitely has a very mixed berry edge to the flavour. That's bloody lovely. Poacher's Choice. There you go. Now, on my YouTube channel, I very, very rarely get involved in anything political because it's largely pointless. Once you got past the age of sort of 17 or 18, most people have made their mind up what they think about most things, and it don't matter what you say to them, they're not going to change their mind. But there is something that's on everybody's minds at the moment, in the news a lot, and that's Europe. Now if you're watching this and you're not in Europe, just bear with me for a couple of minutes, because the big thing here is that the right wing of our political organisation want Britain to pull out of the European Union. Excuse me, because they say it costs too much money and we've ceded too much control to Central Europe. There is a plan afoot to have a referendum whereby the British public can vote on whether they want to stay in Europe or leave Europe. And one of the things that everybody always talks about is all the stupid rules and daft ideas that have been forced on us by Europe. So I thought it might be useful if people don't know what they think about voting to stay in Europe or voting to leave Europe. We'd have a look at some of the things that have been foisted on us by what I usually call the mandarins in Brussels, if that's not a contradiction in terms. So I've got a list here. I'll just read some things out, let's say, that have been foisted on us by the European Parliament. See what you think. Clean beaches and rivers, cleaner air, lead-free petrol, reduced landfill dumping and much increased recycling, cheaper mobile phone charges, cheaper international landline charges, cheaper air travel, improved consumer protection and food labelling, a ban on growth hormones and other harmful food additives, Europe-wide patent and copyright protection. The removal of paperwork for customs for exports through the single market. Removal of commission on currency exchanges across Europe. Access to European health services. Labour protection and enhanced social welfare. Smoke-free workplaces. Equal pay legislation. Improved holiday entitlement. The right not to work more than a 48-hour week without overtime pay. The European arrest warrant and cross-border policing to combat human trafficking, arms and drug smuggling. And coordinated counter-terrorism intelligence. So, there may be things on that list that we would have chosen to do if we weren't in Europe. But most of those things have been forced on us. And that's what you need to consider. Now, to the main part of the video. Well, no, beer first. The main part of the video. One of the themes of my channel is budget knives. And the idea that there are good quality budget price knives out there if you look. People like Opinel, Mora, Rough Rider, they produce Victorinox. They produce a lot of good quality knives, with many of them with what you could call entry level pricing. But now and again when I can, I like to push the budget a little bit and get something nearer to what for me would be mid-range. So I would say a budget knife definitely has to be under £20 and ideally under 15. But the knife we're going to look at now costs £40. It's a Hubertus traditional gentleman's pocket knife. As I say, it cost me £40 and every single one of those pounds was wasted. Okay, so here we have the Hubertus knife in its box, and here we have a Victorinox Pocket Pal. And the reason I want to show you this is basically what I thought I was going to be getting, but with stag handles. So you've got cigar shaped body, a large blade and a small blade, both pen blades hinged at opposite ends. Nice slim profile. So we'll come back to that in a second. First of all, the box, completely plain, other than embossed on the end there, TC6. Now I don't know whether that relates to the knife inside, or whether that's the product code for these plain white boxes like you get from the chemist. So I wasn't impressed from the outset. They haven't even bothered printing up some boxes. So we get the knife out, it comes in a little bag. And the first thing you notice is how thick it is. I say, bear in mind, I thought I was going to get something like this in stag handles. At the thin end, the scale here is what I was expecting. If they'd have both been as thick as this one, which is a little bit thicker than that one, I wouldn't have minded too much if they'd been straight all the way along, like that. But it's got this big flare. And again, at the fat end, neither of these are the same thickness. This one's considerably thicker than this one. So the small, slim, elegant knife I thought I was buying has fallen at the first hurdle. So what else have we got? Well, the blades are, as I was expecting. We've got a long pen blade and we've got a small pen blade at the opposite end, but it's almost impossible to get out. So I'll just grab a tool. Now what we've got here on the small pen blade is at the heel of the tang, which I have heard referred to as the kick, there's been an adjustment made. Now this heel, the kick, is what is supposed to hit the back spring when you close it, so that the cutting edge doesn't hit the back spring. And it's quite clearly been adjusted. Let's see if we can get a close-up for you. If you can see that flat surface there. And I'll just show you a close-up still, so you can get a better idea. So where that has been adjusted, they've taken too much off, and the result is that the blade goes so far into the handle that the nail nick is covered up. So what else is up with this knife? Well, as I mentioned, it's a standard 2 blade pocket knife, large pen blade, small pen blade, both of which rock from side to side like a fat bird in a dinghy. Not happy. Some people might say, well, that's just how it is with a pin construction, but it's not. Or it doesn't have to be. There's no blade play on the Victorinox. The little case peanut with a smaller blade, no blade play. You can bend it if you wanted to, but there's no play. And it's a shame because the materials are lovely. The brass is nicely polished, the back spring has got a nice polish, the pins look lovely against the stag. The pins aren't flush, particularly there, the pin that sits in the texturing does stand quite proud, and that one. But they are well rounded and smoothed and polished, so I don't mind that. But the blades, they're very thin and they're hollow ground, and I don't know if the camera will pick up the way the light twinkles off the edge bevel, but they're very raggedy. It is a very tiny bevel. Let's see if we can show you what I mean. So it cuts the thicker paper like that, but it's not good enough. It certainly won't cut phone book paper, so there's a little bit of work needed there to clean the edge up. And given that they are quite thin blades and they're hollow ground and they're very thin right behind the cutting edge, that's not going to be a lot of work, to be honest. However, the large blade is considerably thicker than the small blade, so the way they've dealt with this is they've put a brass spacer in at this end against the small blade. But the problem is that the brass spacer and the small blade together are thicker than the back spring, which means that they there we go again, see if we can focus, which means it's forcing a gap between the spring and the liner. So that is quite poor. They only needed to use a thinner spacer. So altogether, I have to say I can't recommend this one. I'm not going to bother doing weights and measures on it. You can see what we're getting. It's a standard gentleman's pocket knife. It's about the size of a Victorinox Pocket Pal. But there are a number of things wrong with it. And one or two of the issues I would have been willing to forgive in a budget price blade. But in a knife that costs £40, it's not acceptable. So, that's my Hubertus pocket knife. And that's why the thumbnail picture for this video was a lemon. We'll have a look at some stills, and thanks for watching.